Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In this video, we are going to solve a psychology's past paper. This is paper 1 from May-June 2022, and the paper's component is 1-2, and it is for 1 hour 30 minutes. The first question of the paper says, from the study by Piliavin et al., Subway Samaritans, state the approximate number of participants used in this study. So it is a definitive question. This is something we have to remember from the study. And the number was approximately around 4,450. Part B says trials on a given day were always in the same victim condition. State how the victim condition was chosen. So it is for 1 mark, so we are going to get a single mark for the correct answer, which is that teams were told to alternate the conditions across days. Alternatively, the victims chose to be the drunk victim or the ill victim. And part C says identify two differences between the models used in this study. So from the study by Piliavin, we know that the features that were different between the models were their ages, and the second one was speed at which they gave help. You can also write that the clothes they were wearing were different, and you can also write about the location. That location before helping was also different, somewhere in the adjacent area and somewhere in the critical area. Question 2 says, from the study by Pepperberg, parrot learning, name 2 items that were always available to Alex the parrot without him having to request them. So from the study, again, we know that those were the basic food and water necessities. So first one was water, and the second one was sunflower seeds. You can also write that oats were available to him without asking. Basically, the food he used to eat. And part B says describe one methodological weakness of this study, one methodological weakness of Pepperberg. So reflecting back to the whole procedure, the whole method that was used, we can say that, for example, the tasks lacked mundane realism. Why? Because stating what is same or different about two objects is not something we come across in our daily lives. So basically, the ecological validity of this study was very low. It lacked mundane realism because the task that was given was not something any avian subject or any human would come across in their daily life. You can also write that the study was only conducted on one parrot, so this makes it difficult to generalize the results to other parrots or other species of the same parrot. Any credit-worthy response would help you gain 2 marks. But make sure that you are explaining your methodological weakness. Part 3, the question number 3 says, from the study by Dement and Kleitman, sleep and dreams, one feature of the sample in this study was that they were all adults. Identify 3 other features of the sample used in this study. So other three features of the sample other than that they were all adults was that they were mostly males. There were 7 males in the study, so they were mostly males in the sample. And then there were 9 participants in total, 7 males and 2 females. And you can also write that 4 of the participants were used just to confirm the results. Or you can write the opposite, that only 5 were used in the study intensively and the rest 4 were just to confirm the results. Part B says describe one result about dream recall from REM awakenings in the first half of the night compared to the second half of the night. So over here you are going to get 2 marks for a full result which has a specific group mentioned and it is also compared to the other group. So let's say I can write that group of 5 participants was studied intensely and there were slightly more dreams recalled in the first half as compared to the second half. For the 5 participants, for the same 5 participants. For the same 5 participants. So this is going to give you 2 marks. If you're just writing that there were slightly more dreams recalled in the first half, you are just going to get 1 mark because you need to mention that compared to what. There were slightly more dreams recalled in the first half compared to the second half, and you also need to mention that it was for the same 5 participants. You can also write that if you talk about the entire sample, not just the 5 who were studied intensely, you can also write that there were more dreams recalled in the second half compared to the first half for the entire sample. So the results for the 5 who were studied intensely and the whole sample, the entire sample, was different. So in question number 4, it says at the end of the study by Milgram, the experimenter used an interview and de Hoog's procedure with his participants. Describe this procedure. And since it is for 4 marks, so you're going to get 1 mark per correct point made. So let's say I write at the end of the study, each participant was debriefed. They were asked to rate how painful they thought the shocks were on a scale of 0 to 14. And there were also open-ended questions. Open-ended questions were also asked about how they were feeling, and the participants also met Mr. Wallace, who was the stooge, to show that no harm was caused to him. This was done to basically reassure the participants, and you can also write that this whole procedure was conducted in a friendly manner and participants were allowed to ask any further questions if they had any questions, if they had any. Okay, then part B says studies in social psychology can be used to help managers in the workplace. Suggest how the study by Milgram could be used to help a manager with disobedient workers. Your suggestion must be ethical. So this is an important part, and it's for 2 marks, so you're going to get 1 mark for what the real world application can be for the manager, and the second mark will be how it can be achieved based on the procedure of Milgram. So you can write a manager could get workers, a manager could get workers to be more obedient in the workplace by changing what they wear, or you can also write by wearing clothes that appear to be authoritative. What will happen is by wearing such clothes, such as a technician's coat, will show authority, just as it did in the study by Milgram. You can also write that workers could be encouraged to be more obedient if the manager gives them commands in a firm or a stern voice, in a stern tone, just like the experimenter gave the prods to the participants in the study by Milgram. Then question 5 says, from the study by Canli, brain scans and emotions, outline one aim of the study. So you need to outline one aim, but if it's for 2 marks, then you are supposed to write a whole aim, which can be that one of the aim was to investigate whether the amygdala is sensitive to different levels of experienced emotional intensities. If you're just writing to investigate the role of amygdala in memory, something like that, you are not going to get full marks, you're going to get a partial mark because you are not explaining the aim in detail. Now part B says, explain one reason why the procedure was standardized in this study. So you need to write like 1 mark for identifying the reason, and then the second mark will be for explaining why the identified reason is actually the reason for this study, and then the third mark is for linking your reason completely with the study. So let's say I write, it would allow the study to be more easily replicated, therefore it could be tested for reliability. For example, now linking it to the study, for example, knowing how long the picture was presented for means that the exact replication is possible. Or also knowing that what kind of pictures were shown to each participant, they were the same for each participant, so it would again make it easier for the study to be replicated, because another experimenter or researcher can use the same images or the same intensity level images while conducting his or her own study. Then question number 6 is, outline what is meant by the learning approach in psychology. Include examples from this study by Schachter and Singer in your answer. So you need to explain what is meant by learning approach. 2 marks will be for explaining, and 2 marks will be for linking it with Schachter and Singer's study. So you can write, for example, that learning approach in psychology assumes that we learn through conditioning This may be through rewards and punishments, which is basically operant conditioning. And then we also learn through observation and imitation. Or by association, which is classical conditioning. And if we are to use the example of Savitri and Silverman, so we can say that, for example, the boy may have been scared of the incident in the classroom with buttons, and as he was rewarded at times by his mother for handling the buttons, his phobia gradually decreased. You can write a shorter answer where you just write any 2 points about what learning psychology assumes and not every point mentioned over here. And then question number 7 says, from the study by Laney, you all describe the restaurant questionnaire. So from the study by Laney, false memory is one. We know that the restaurant questionnaire assessed the desire to eat 32 items, and then there was a critical item of sauteed asparagus. The questionnaire was formatted to look like a real menu with 5 categories of the dishes. There were appetizers, soup, salad, entries, and sides and desserts. And then they had to imagine that they were out for a special dinner, and each choice was recorded from 1 to 8 point scale. Question 8 says, from the study by Schachter and Singer, 2 factors in emotion, outline the category of initiates new activity for the behavior of participants in the euphoria condition. So one of the categories was initiates a new activity, and those were like a listed category of such kind of behaviors in the euphoria condition, and from there you need to write what the categories actually were. So this was when the creative euphoria was exhibited by the participants. These behaviors were shown by jumping on a table, or laughing, or by spinning the hula hoop on neck, or by throwing a paper basketball passers-by, the people who are passing by. Part B says, two friends, Maryam and Zara, are discussing the study in terms of reliability. Maryam believes the study does have reliability, but Zara believes the study does not have reliability. Outline why you think either Maryam or Zara is correct using evidence from the study. So you are going to get 1 mark for per correct point made, and this is for 4 marks. So 2 points for Maryam and 2 points for Zara. So let's say we can write that Maryam is but wait, we just need to tell either Maryam or Zara is correct using evidence from the study. We do not have to tell about both of them, so we can choose either of them. So let's say if I am choosing Maryam, so I can write that Maryam is correct because there were parts of the study that were standardized. There was a set script. There was a set script that had to be followed by the stooge and by the experimenter before injecting the participants. So this means other researchers can replicate the study by using the same instructions and procedure. So this is why you can write that Maryam is correct. If you are going with Zara, then you can write that Zara is correct because there were parts of the study that were difficult to standardize, such as the stooge did have a set way they were supposed to act, but this may not have been the same each time because there were different participants and the stooge had to accommodate according to the participants' desires. So therefore each participant might have got a slightly different set of behaviors or comments, hence the study can be difficult to replicate. So you can write either of these passages, either of these points. If you are going with Maryam, then these are the reasons you can give for Maryam, and if you're going for Zara, then these are the reasons you can say that Zara was correct. And then in question number 9, it says describe the psychology being investigated in the study by Bandura et al. So from the psychology being investigated part, you can write any 4 points out of it. Let's say I am writing that the psychology being investigated suggests that people pay attention to or observe the behavior of a role model. They watch a model being aggressive or non-aggressive towards a bobo doll. So over here you are also mentioning the example from the study, then they then retain that information in their memory and will imitate the behavior or reproduce it if they feel capable of doing so. And then if they witnessed the model get reward, then they are more likely to repeat the behavior observed. And you can also mention how the imitation is seen as more probable if the role model is of the same sex. Now 9b says, explain whether each ethical guideline below was broken in the study by Bandura et al. Aggression or not. So the first one is confidentiality. So for it, we first need to mention what it means by confidentiality. So it refers to when any data should not be identifiable as a single participant's response, and the identities of the children were not revealed. All we know is that they were attending a nursery at Stanford. Hence this guideline was not broken, because we don't know who the students were, their names, their age, nothing such information was revealed. And then the second one is deception. So deception is when a participant should not be deceived without a strong justification. And over here the children were deceived because they were not told about the procedure. Children were deceived as they never knew that they were being observed in the experimental room. Thus, this guideline was broken because the children were not able to give their full informed consent because they did not know what was happening in the study. Now, the third one is protection from physical harm. So, what happens in this guideline is that participants should leave the study in the same physical state as they entered. And over here the children witnessed and then repeated the aggressive behavior, and these were not reversed before leaving the study. So the child might have got harmed when hitting the bobo doll or playing with toys in an aggressive manner. So this guideline was broken. The last one is protection from psychological harm. So over here what it means is that participants should not be potentially distressed by the procedure of the study, and this guideline was also broken because the children may have been scared of watching a model acting aggressively towards the Bobo doll, and the children might have had a longer term psychological effect of watching aggression or violence. So these guidelines were broken. And then question number 10 says, evaluate the study. Just a minute. Evaluate the study by Yamamoto et al. In terms of 2 strengths and 2 weaknesses. At least one of your evaluation points must be about laboratory experiments. So you can use laboratory experiments either as a strength or as a weakness. So I'm going to use it as a weakness. So first, let's talk about the strength. So a strength can be a standardized procedure. Obviously you guys have to write like proper points, proper paragraphs. I'm just mentioning a few points. So standard procedure can help because you also need to give examples. So like for example, every chimpanzee was made familiar with the objects or tools they had to use, and they were all treated in the same manner. Now this increases retest reliability, which makes it easier for the it makes it easier to replicate the study. So its replicability is high. And the second one can be repeated measures design. So you can write that another strength of the study is repeated measures design, because as the same participants were used in both the conditions, the can see and the cannot see conditions, it is easier and more reliable to compare the results. So the results or the study can be valid because accurate comparison can be made. And then one weakness, let's say we are talking about laboratory experiments. So laboratory experiments, it means that artificial environment was used with controls to avoid extraneous variables, and this reduces the ecological validity because the situation was not something a chimpanzee would come across in its daily life, and it was a very, very artificial environment with glass doors and glass rooms and all of that. So this is